Imagine living in a small town where everybody knows, oh, cat. She just traced up watery paws on the bed. I really hope that's not her piss. Imagine living in a small town where everyone knows everyone and therefore your reputation is particularly important to uphold. Now imagine being in that town and having your dirty laundry, your private affairs aired out publicly in a series of anonymous, mysterious, aggressive letters being sent out to everyone in your town. These mysterious letters continue to escalate up until a suspicious death as well as attempted murder. And to this day, this haunting mystery has remained unsolved for decades until now. Because today, Pop is flipping his bedroom into his detective quarters and opening it up for the first ever live interactive investigation room, as I will be delivering this case live on Twitch. Everything you're about to watch is going to be filmed live on a Twitch stream where I'll be interacting with the chat to get their thoughts, their theories, and hopefully together we will lock in who done it. Okay, everyone, yes, I hope you're ready to solve an unsolved mystery. I hope you're ready to solve a case that has baffled people for decades. You see that? I tried to dramatically pull the pen out of my hand and then it didn't come out. Okay, let's begin. I have a picture to paint. All right, so let's begin. The story takes place, my friends, in 1976. The case takes place in a little town known as Circleville, Ohio. Circleville, Ohio is basically your quintessential all-American Midwest town. But in 1976, the town of Circleville, Ohio began getting plagued by a bunch of mysterious letters that were sent to the people that lived in the town. Their personal secrets were being spilled in these letters being sent across the town. And to this day, no one knows who sent those letters. Well, we are introduced, ladies and gentlemen, to a nice woman, a bus driver. Her name is Mary Gillespie. Mary Gillespie. Mary Gillespie married her childhood, her high school sweetheart, a fellow named Ron. Mary and Ron, they loved each other, and they had Nookie at least twice because they had 2 kids together. However, did Mary actually love Ron? Because lo and behold, the rumors started flying. An allegation was sent to Mary Gillespie in 1977. Mary Gillespie receives a letter accusing her of having an affair with the school superintendent. Hold. With the school superintendent, Gordon Massey. The first letter she receives reads as such: Mrs. Gillespie, stay away from Massey. Don't lie when questioned about meeting him. I know where you live. I've been observing your house and know you have children. This is no joke. Please take it serious. Everyone concerned has been notified. It will be over soon. Now that's not a fun message to receive. That's not a fun message to receive because basically this person's telling her, hey Mary, I'm watching you. I know where you live. I know where you, Daddy Ron, and your 2 kids live. Mary says, I am not having an affair with this Gordon fella. You know, we're just buddies. There was no return address, but they were sent postmarked from Columbus, Ohio. These letters, they started getting spread. These were getting spread to the newspapers, to city officials. People were getting, they were getting all up in this supposed tea, the supposed love affair between Mary and Gordon. Lady, this is your last chance to report him. I know you are a pig and will prove it and shame you out of Ohio. A pig sneaks around and meets other women's husbands behind their backs, causes families and homes and marriages to suffer. Oof. This person writing these letters, not having a good time. Chichi Bibi says, I know it's just the start of the case, but it seems to me someone in that town was just bored and started some drama with the stuff they see around town. Probably someone they don't pay much attention to, so people don't mind showing their true selves around them. That is a great theory. And keep your theories coming in the chat. I'm interested to hear your theories. Letters weren't the only things they received. Offensive signs were seen on Mary's bus route. So basically, when she's driving on her bus route, she was seeing these signs that were posted up on the bus route calling her, I don't know what they said exactly, but probably calling her a harlot and all kinds of things like that. Not nice things. These weren't signs saying, oh, Mary Gillespie makes the best cookies in town. The letters were brought indeed to the police office, but that didn't stop the letters from continuing to roll on in. And of course, this whole town, this was the talk of the town. In a small town like this, boy, oh boy, publicly being told about an affair between 2 people in your small town, people were going wild. And don't act like you criminals out there wouldn't be eating this up if you were in this town. You'd be like, ooh, Mary Gillespie, did you hear? Did you hear her and Gordon knocking boots? You'd all be getting involved. And don't you deny it. It's okay. We're all human. We love a bit of gossip. Vilify Exile, exactly. I hear she's passing around that booty. Yeah, stuff like that. That's you know what, Vilify Exile, I can't confirm it, but I'm pretty sure that is what was on one of those signs seen on the road. I think there was a sign that read, I hear she's passing around that booty. Miss Iceblast says it was absolutely a woman. Yes, people are asking, is it a man? Is it a woman? Who's riding this stuff, you know? Is it someone that's actually, someone who lives in Circleville? Or, they were postmarked from Columbus. Is it someone from out of town? Is it a bored person, Who knows? Everyone had their theories. These letters kept coming, and after a couple of weeks, the writer of the letter is like, okay, you know what? Fuck it, I'm taking it up a notch. The writer basically says, Mary, I'm gonna go to the news stations. I'm gonna get this thing put up on billboards. Everyone that doesn't already know about this, everyone's gonna know that you are passing around that booty. So apparently, Mary and Ron supposedly only really told 3 people about the letters themselves. Ron's sister, Karen Sue, Paul, for sure, Karen's husband, and Paul's sister. And I don't know what her name is. We're gonna call her question mark. That's not a question mark. Let's pretend that's a question mark. These people know about the letters. Mary herself, she had some theories as well. Mary had some suspicions as to who the person could be. So what they did was they decided to have Paul write letters. This gets a little confusing because I'm not sure how this happened, but my notes here share that Paul, Ron's brother-in-law, was told to write letters to the writer, telling him or her that they knew who the writer was to scare them off. But what I don't understand is that we didn't have a return address, so I don't know where they wrote these letters to. But they did it. They had Paul write a letter saying, hey, I know who you are, so you better stop this shit. We're gonna expose you, baby. And the letter stopped for a bit. In August of 1977, Mary and the 2 kids, they decided to go on a little trip to the great state of Florida to visit for a little holiday. And Ron, on his own, on August 19th, 1977, Ron receives a phone call. Bring, bring, bring. And this phone call, we don't know exactly what was on the phone call, but it angered Ron. Ron wasn't happy with what we heard on this call because this call seemed to, we assume, confirm to Ron the identity of the Circleville Writer. Ron believed he finally knew who this person was that was accosting his wife and the whole town with these horrible letters. And so Ron grabbed his gun. He went in his pickup truck, although it's worth noting that Ron went into his pickup truck even though the Circleville Writer had once told them, I'm watching your truck. But he still got in his truck. A few minutes later, Ron Gillespie was found dead in his truck. Ron Gillespie's body was found in his truck at a wreck after he had crashed into a tree. But peculiarly, the investigators on the scene of the crime, they discovered that the gun that Ron had on his body had been fired once. So before he died, before this crash, he shot at something or someone. Yeah. This is getting juicy, huh, people? Now we have a character here. I say character as if he's not a real person. Now we have a person here in this case. Sheriff Dwight Radcliffe. He was the one leading this investigation, and he was doing his investigating, and he had apparently, he had ruled out one suspect. And actually, the sheriff officially ruled Ron's death an accident. Boo. Back then, the police, investigators, they didn't have great detectives like Pop around. So it's okay. That's why we're here now, everyone. That's why you, the criminals, and we're putting our minds together. We're going to solve this case belatedly. He ruled Ron's death an accident. The sheriff said basically that Ron was drunk and he lost control and crashed the car. It ain't that easy. If it were that easy, we wouldn't be here, people. We wouldn't be here. No way it's an accident, Mel Bell says. Oh, the sheriff's covering it up, Karen says. Wait, was the bullet found after? Shocky. No bullet was found. And I say that very confidently because I actually don't know. But none of my notes say that a bullet was found. But it did say the gun was fired. Let's continue, though. Let's continue. This is fun. I'm glad we get to do this together. Paul believes that Ron has been murdered, though, and he kept telling the sheriff, hey, buddy, do your damn job. He was murdered. This was not an accident. Residents actually received letters saying that the sheriff himself, Sheriff Radcliffe, is accused of covering things up. According to Mr. Paul, for sure, Mr. Radcliffe, the sheriff, at first, when he assessed the scene of the crime, he did say, oh, there was foul play. But then the initial suspect that they had, whose name has yet to be released, I believe, the suspect passed a polygraph test. So then the sheriff was like, okay, so it's not the suspect. And because Ron's blood alcohol level was 0.16, which is double the legal limit, the sheriff was like, Ron was drunk. This was just an accident. However, it's worth noting that a lot of the people that knew Ron best said they were surprised because Ron was not apparently a very heavy drinker. I've got another plot twist though for you people. Oh, I've got another plot twist for you. Mary and the superintendent she was accused of having an affair with say, yeah, we're dating now. Mary and Gordon, they maintain their love didn't begin until Ron had passed. But that doesn't look good, I think. I mean, there's nothing illegal about it. There's nothing illegal about having an affair except in the eyes of God. Sus indeed. Mary and Gordon accused of having an affair. They say, no affair. Ron kicks the bucket, and now they're together.
Aria, you're looking cute today, just saying.
Oh, thanks, Maddie. Again, the letters that were being sent by the Circleville Writer to Mary were telling her, stop this affair with Gordon. But now that they're public, these letters certainly aren't stopping. The letters, they keep escalating. Mary Gillespie was driving. Oh, yes. Oh, I said that very maniacally, and I like it. Okay, let's continue now, people. I don't know why I started walking. When I said, let's continue, but I like that. Let's continue. Let's continue down this case is what I mean. We're marching down this case. Mary Gillespie and Gordon tell the people, hey, we're dating now. The threats kept coming through. Something happens. Some crazy shit happens, as it always does. On February 7th, 1983, at exactly 3:30 p.m., Mary is on her bus picking up the kids, as she does. She's driving on down Circleville, Ohio. Pike, I got a Slack. I'll read it later. That's from work. It's not work hours anymore. I'm not going to read that message. She's driving. Mary, vroom, 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 driving her bus. There's a sign over there. What? There's a sign over there. Oh, God, it's another handmade sign with an obscene message towards her. Oh, my God, this sicko. I don't know if that's an Ohioan accent, but I'm going to roll with it. Oh, my God, this sicko. They've written an offensive sign about my 13-year-old daughter. Oh, my God, I'm upset. She pulls the bus over, and she goes over to the sign. And then as Mary Gillespie tries to yank the sign off the fence, she finds out something. Uh-oh. Is it too late? It's been rigged. The sign was a booby trap. Yes, I'm not lying. Yes, Mary finds the sign. It's a damn booby trap. Inside this rigged booby trap sign, there was a .25 caliber handgun. The sign was rigged for this handgun to bang, bang, whoever pulled it off. And thankfully, Mary survived. The gun never went off, from what I understand. Mary survived this attempt on her life. So Mary, she took the gun, took it to the police, and they noticed that whoever put this gun here did a very bad job trying to scrub off the serial number on it, and they were able to trace the gun. But who did they trace the gun to? The gun was traced to the co-worker of one Paul, for sure. Ron's brother-in-law. The co-worker says, yeah, I sold that gun to Paul for sure. Dark Whisper says case closed. Enviro says I told you it was Paul. Oh, there are still a few more wrinkles in this though. There's still a few more wrinkles. Still got a little bit more scrolling to do. So stay tuned because maybe it's not over yet. In 1983, the sheriff, they investigate and they talk to Karen Sue and Paul for sure. And it turns out that Karen and Paul are in the middle of a nasty divorce. They're not in love anymore. And Karen lets the sheriff in on something. The Karen says to the sheriff, yeah, I hate this motherfucker. Didn't say that verbatim. I'm just, spicing this up. Karen says, I hate this motherfucker. My husband, Paul, he's been infatuated with Mary Gillespie, which provides potentially a motive, right? Is Paul sending these letters because Paul is trying to get Mary to stop this affair so Paul can have his chance to, Furthermore, Karen, I'm sorry for this reflection here. We'll figure that out in the future. Karen's not holding a thing back. Karen says to the police, hey, I'll give you something else. You know what? Paul, he wrote those fucking letters. I know it. And so Paul, he is not looking good. Paul says, hey, you know what? I admit, I own that gun. That's my gun. But my gun, it was stolen. It was stolen a while ago, like several weeks ago. And you can have a look for anything else you want. My house, my car. The sheriff then asks Paul to do a handwriting test. And Paul does a handwriting examination of sorts. And he writes out some of these letters. Paul did all this. Paul acquiesced and he wanted to seem supportive. So he submitted to this handwriting test. And then Paul did something a little stupid and he took a polygraph and he failed. And on that note, let's talk about polygraphs for a bit here, people. I'm no legal expert, so don't take my word on this. But from what I understand, if you're ever in a position where you're asked to take a polygraph test, even if you know you're innocent, don't take it. There's no point in taking it. What Maddie says, they won't exonerate you, but they will incriminate. Whatever he said. Paul did a polygraph and he failed. Shouldn't have done it. Soon after, Paul was arrested. Ka-ching! In 1983, Paul Fischer's trial begins for the attempted murder of Mary Gillespie for that booby trap. He was never charged with writing those letters. However, those letters still were a very important part of the evidence that was being placed against him. Things in court do not go well for good old Paul Fischer. And stay with me, because this case still has some more little twists and turns. It's not over yet, just because we're in the trial system. Things in court do not go well for Paul Fischer. A handwriting expert says, yeah, that's Paul. I looked at the handwriting, his handwriting matched to the letters. That's your man. Furthermore, Mary was visited by Karen Sue, and after being visited by Karen Sue, Mary says in court, Paul, yeah, it's probably him. Furthermore, Paul's boss himself testifies that Paul was not at work on the day of the booby trap's placement and discovery. So he is sent to prison for 10 years for attempted murder. Nothing to do with the writing of the letters, but he's sentenced for attempted murder with that booby trap. Here's where it gets interesting again. While Paul was behind bars, he continued to maintain his innocence. Paul's like, this is not me. I did not send those letters. I did not place those booby traps. But that's the thing, though. There were some oddities about the case that was made against him. For one, no one saw Paul near the booby trap that day, and he actually had a good alibi for most of that day. There were multiple eyewitnesses who testified that they saw Paul at home the day the booby trap was planted and discovered. Paul was apparently getting some work done on his house, and that's why he took that day off, which his boss corroborated when he said Paul took the day off that day. Now stick with me right here. Paul Fischer spends those years in prison, and because he's believed to be the Circleville Writer, he is not given any pens or papers while behind bars. But the letters keep coming. Paul Fischer, behind bars, no pens, no papers, but the letters keep coming. The letters people received were postmarked from Columbus, Ohio, even though Paul was in prison in Lima, Ohio, aka the home of Glee. At times, Paul was even in solitary confinement. These letters kept coming. But on top of all that, even Paul himself received a letter. For sure. Now, when are you going to believe you aren't getting out of there? I told them 2 years ago, when we set them up, they stay set up. Don't you listen at all? No one wants you out. No one. The joke is on you. Ha ha. Tell no one of this letter. I saw the paper. Great news. Great. The sheriff loved it. Ha ha. Do you believe it now? Do you? One of the popular theories involved in this case is that Karen Sue is actually the Circleville Writer. Karen Sue, Paul's ex-wife, is the actual Circleville Writer, and she sent her husband to prison for her crimes. There's no proof. That's just a theory. A former FBI profiler did say, in analyzing this case, that the writer, the Circleville Writer, was someone who was clever, deceptive, and possibly female who was not highly educated. Paul's lawyer did bring up the fact that Karen could be the one behind this, saying, who hated Paul enough to try to get him in trouble? If you read the divorce decree, who stands to profit financially if Paul is convicted and goes to prison? Before we continue, though, there is another suspect. It doesn't come up in the trial, but apparently another bus driver on Mary's route, don't forget Mary was a school bus driver, another driver on the route said that 20 minutes earlier, before Mary herself stumbled upon the trap, this other driver had driven by that same spot. She said that she actually saw a gentleman, a man, standing by an El Camino car or a truck. I don't know what an El Camino is. Whatever. Let's say it's a truck. She saw a man standing where the booby trap was eventually placed by an El Camino truck, but as soon as that man saw her, he turned around and he pretended like he was peeing. And so this driver, she didn't get a good look at this gentleman. However, the description of this fellow did not match Paul for sure. This man had sandy hair, and at that time, Karen Sue was believed to be dating someone with sandy hair. Karen Sue's brother also apparently owned an El Camino. Interesting. I'm just going to leave that out there. But nothing confirmed. This is all speculation. None of this went to trial. Just theories. Paul for Sure is released in 1994. When Paul for Sure is released in 1994, the Circleville letters abruptly stopped coming. Paul continued to say, I'm innocent. One final wrinkle in this case that I want to toss your way is this. Apparently, there was a very, very ugly, divorce battle between Karen and Paul. Karen and Paul's daughters were torn between their parents. However, there was a son. His name was Mark. Mark loved his mom, and Mark wanted to go with his mom in the divorce. And basically, even when Paul went to prison, Mark never once visited his father in jail. Remember, the reason why Paul for Sure was a big suspect to begin with was because his gun was the one placed in the booby trap, even though he claimed his gun was stolen from him a few weeks prior. Paul for Sure has told people that he suspects that the thief of the gun was his own son. On September 11th, 2002, Mark for Sure, 39 years old, is found dead floating in the Scioto River in Portsmouth, Ohio. He had shot himself. His mother, Karen Sue, later told police that her son had suffered for years from depression. Now, obviously, we're not going to get into mental health here too much because I'm no expert, but some people have alleged that perhaps he was suffering from guilt surrounding what he had done to incriminate his father. That is just something that is worth noting, but again, he could also be depressed for a plethora of other reasons, sadly. June 28, 2012, Paul for Sure, he sadly passes away. And to his deathbed, Paul continued to maintain his innocence. To this day, the Circleville letters, the identity of the writer has yet to be uncovered officially or anyone charged with those letters. And the case has now since been officially closed. So ladies and gentlemen, I turn to all of you and I ask you for your theories. Amanda in the chat says, are we certain there wasn't more than one writer? I like that theory. Someone earlier was also saying potentially that Paul did it, but had an accomplice that continued the letters after he was in prison. Kelso Roll thinks it was Karen. Ghost Cat says, I'm just hung up on if Karen did it because her mans was obsessed with her brother's wife. Why would she kill her brother? Wouldn't she just go for Mary? That's a good one. I would say I'm suspicious of Karen, but that is a very good question that Ghost Cat throws up. For anyone that thinks, like me, that Karen could have been the one to do it, why did Karen kill her brother instead of just going straight for Mary? Karen says, since cell phones didn't exist, if Ron crashed, he could have fired his gun as a signal of help. Wow. That is interesting too. This is good. I like this that we're all talking this out because you guys are bringing up good points that I wouldn't have thought of. Parrot says Mary still seems like a good choice. Interesting, Parrot. You voted other because you think Mary could very well have been sending the letters to herself and been staging this. That's interesting. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed learning about this case. This was my first time presenting a case live in front of an audience, and I think it was a lot of fun as well as very beneficial because it was great to use the chat as a sounding board where we could talk about our ideas, our theories, our suspects. I definitely hope to make this a weekly thing on the Twitch streams and then making videos out of it. And so in the future, if you want to be there for the actual live presentation and go through the investigation with me in real time, the link to the Twitch channel is down below. And if you weren't a part of the live stream, I would still love to hear your theories and thoughts down in the comments below, as well as please send over any suggestions for future cases you may have in the comments or on our Discord, which is also linked down below. And obviously like, comment, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Either way, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you I hit my face there. I'll see you next time.